Hello, hello, JJ DiGeronimo. Another week, another amazing guest. Today, I'm with Joe Singleton. He has found this amazing new wave of information that is helping so many people really disconnect from what society often makes us feel is super important. And so I really appreciate that you're joining us here, looking for ways to illuminate your path ahead. And I think Joe will definitely provide some insights to do that. So, hi, Joe. How are you?
Hey, JJ, I'm great. Great to be with you today.
So there were so many things we could talk about, and we landed on the seven chakra meditation, the seven chakras meditation. So tell me what that is and how that found you.
That kind of developed out of my first book, Maradon, Buddha Rise the Awakening. It's been published for a couple years now. And it's kind of the conclusion of my book. It's two parts. The first is, growing up in the West, we don't get a lot of coverage of kind of the benefits of Eastern yogic thinking. You really have to dig for it. I spent most of my life trying to find the answer to everything through classic, ancient, and modern philosophy, contemporary philosophy, and landed on the Buddha one day, a little book called What the Buddha Taught by Rahul Wapola. And it was weird. I was actually editing for another author, and I ran across this book, and I had to buy it, and I read it in 2 days. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for, all of my life. So, kind of based on the Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists. We all suffer. All things pass. Suffering too will pass. And then finally, the fourth noble truth, which is the knowledge that all suffering passes. Just that one simple truth, which all of kind of Buddhism, yogic, Eastern yogic thinking is built on, is an amazing thing when you start to really comprehend what that means, and it starts to open new doors in your mind and so forth. So it's weird, coming towards the end of my book, I kind of developed this thing I call the seven chakras meditation. And it's kind of a cycling up, a spiral up from the root to the sacrum to the belly, the heart, the throat chakra, which I love so much, the third eye and the crown. Cycling through all of these seven chakras, we have this dynamic energy system within our bodies and our mind, body, spirit complex that most of us really don't know about or understand. We rely on Western medicine to take pills to relieve anxiety or whatever. It's really about kind of visiting all of those key seven components of your life, the seven chakras, once each through the cycle daily, hopefully twice a day in your meditations, to really kind of keep you on balance. So that's what it is. And it's kind of the conclusion, the second half of my first book, based on a lot of different things I, researched and read and realized for myself, and just kind of made my own form of meditation. And I tried to go through it really step by step, word by word, through all seven chakras. A little bit of it's a little bit repetitive, but it's designed to, if you get that book, kind of go through it and start to be able to do that kind of meditation and have that kind of understanding on your own. So that, in a very tight nutshell, is kind of what it's all about.
Well, I feel like that's amazing on so many levels. But like, how did you even start meditating? Why did you start meditating? And like, how did you even know to go to seven chakras?
Well, I talk a little bit about that in the book and the setup for a meditation. Meditating is hard. I tried meditating for, if you're like me, I'm 58 years old now. I tried it in my 20s. I tried it in my 30s. I tried it in my 40s. And it just, I never could seem to get anywhere. Could get the noise out of my head or whatever. And then it's just practice. You got to do it. You got to sit down and do it, and you got to find. And I think it comes with understanding, with seeking, with research and age. If you seek, you shall find. But you just, that seeking is work, right? So understanding. I do a lot of things through the tarot. I do a lot of things through. Did stuff with magic and spirituality and philosophy. It's really a blend of, my first book is a blend from like philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and Jean-Paul Sartre, some of my favorite philosophers, integrating that kind of logical philosophy with spiritual philosophy. When you bring that together, it creates kind of a space where you can find, I don't know, let's say new dimensions, or new opening the mind to that which is unreal. Understanding that a lot of the things, one of the things I like to tell people is open your mind to the thought, what intrigues you that might seem unreal. Open your mind to it and treat it as something that could be real. And you can find vast new spaces in your mind beyond the kind of boundaries that the physical world sets around us. So it's hard, you have to do it. You've got to get up and do it. You've got to find your little place, and it's a personal thing, and it's as much about visiting your, what's going on inside of you as much as letting everything go and finishing in just kind of this peaceful blank space. If you can get rid of all the noise in your head, it's a beautiful thing. That's a hard thing to accomplish. It's a lot of what my first book is about. And it's a process.
Oh, I know. I had to take mindfulness twice before I even understood what I was trying to accomplish. And I feel like mindfulness for me by John Kabat-Zinn was one of the tools that really helped me meditate, because I thought you weren't supposed to have any thoughts at all and just sit there. And of course, I'm like doing laundry lists and grocery lists and working on, a contract with my customer in my head. And mindfulness gave me the permission to create like this conveyor belt and just allow the thoughts to go by without picking up any one of the boxes and unwrapping it.
That's it. And I'm real big in the book on like the approaching, arrived, and departure part of thing. That's kind of those four noble truths, right? All things come, they arrive, and they pass. And once we understand that's going to pass, that conveyor belt you're talking about is a big thing. It's a lot of the stuff I talk about in my 7 chakras meditation is cycling through that. Our root, our lower chakras are designed in what grounds us, right? If we're not grounded, if I'm not happy in my home, if I'm not happy with my car, if I'm not happy in my relationship, it's hard to be grounded and be stable. But also we have these higher chakras, right? The third eye, the crown, these things that are our spirituality, our intellect, all of these kinds of things. It's important to keep that balance. I've really been big lately on, instead of cycling up from the root to the crown, the heart is in the middle. It's that fourth chakra, right? So we have our lower grounding chakras as well as our higher intuition, intellect, and spiritual chakras. And the heart kind of brings all of that together, right? So it's almost like a dynamic symphony within us. The 7 chakras meditation was about visiting all those. But to tell you the truth, my next book I'm going on is, I ran across a guru, Sadhguru. Some people have heard of him, but he has something called Isha Kriya meditation. And I tried this, and it's about 14 minutes, and it's just simply saying over and over, I am not the body, I am not even the mind, over and over. And I started doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so simple and so easy. And it's the first time I found that meditation where I really can get to that place where the clutter for the first 4, 5, 6 minutes is there, and then it falls away. And at the end, you kind of listen to your favorite, peaceful meditative song or whatever. 14 minutes later, you open your eyes, the sun's up, and it's a beautiful thing. Simplicity is where I'm kind of going, is getting rid of all of the complexities of all of these things, these conveyor belts of information in our mind. The true awakening is really the letting go of all that and just being, right? Who we are, where I am right now at this place in time. What happened before, what happens tomorrow, none of that matters. What matters is what we do with ourselves and control and make ourselves peaceful right now, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. I think I'm going to borrow that. I think I'm going to say I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, and put my timer on for 14 minutes and just continue to chant that and allow myself to float, right? Float into the ether.
Absolutely. And it's if you coordinate breathing with that, if there's levels of if I can breathe 18 times a minute, I believe is the normal. If I can take that down to 12 and then 6 and then 4, if you can elongate your breathing, the closer you get to that kind of etheric connection. It's a pretty cool thing. Isha Kriya meditation through Sadhguru. Check it out.
That is amazing. And so, I struggle with this, and I'm curious how you've overcome this like mantra of daily meditation. I get on a cycle and I do it for a certain amount of time, or I use a YouTube video, or I do a chanting, and then I fall off and then I get back on again. So how do you stick with your meditation practice every day? Like, what's your process to be sure that you do it?
I get up every morning and I've got, we've got this new place at the beach where we're living, and I've got a nice balcony out there, and I can hear the ocean in the distance and the breeze, and the sun is behind my neck when I do it. And I just get up, and you've got to do it every day. That's kind of that work part, it probably took me a year and a half to get to the point where I could really found some true benefits from my meditation. But I knew if I didn't keep doing it and break through those kind of chains, you just got to keep doing it. It's like anything. I can want to lose my belly and exercise for 5 days and then quit. That doesn't do me any good. If I don't keep doing it, I'm not going to stay in shape, right? So it's just like anything else. I don't want to say it's work, but when you finally break that barrier and find out the benefit that you can truly get from it, I call it peace, freedom, and happiness inside. That's the awakening, right? Um, Truly, when you think about it, we all have bonds and chains from our job to our family, everything is. It's like we're a link in all of these chains, binding us. And there's way that the way to free all of that stuff can only be in your mind. When you create that space in your mind, it's like that safe, free space in your mind, and you start to crave that. I notice there will be a day or two. I generally do it every day. Let's say I probably do my meditation uh, 200, or let's say 338 times out of 365 days. But there's always those few days when I don't do it, and I can tell, and I know I have to get up. I have to do my meditation in the morning because things get a little, crazy and out of balance. So it's actually what keeps me in balance. And when you actually find some balance in your life, and you find that's the vehicle by which you achieve that balance, you start to crave it. It's like something you can't not do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me ask you though, because obviously I work with a lot of women and they're like, balance doesn't exist. So when you say balance, like what does that mean to you?
To me, balance is those different aspects of your lives. Let's take it back to the chakra. Let's take it back to our root chakra, right? Our grounded chakra. If I'm not grounded, if I'm not happy at the place, the things that support me in my life, it doesn't matter if I'm a great singer, if I'm a great thinker, if I'm a great spiritualist, if I'm a doctor from the heart, or whatever I do, that's always going to be out of balance, right? So it's important to have all seven of those aspects. They all need attention and care. Once you understand what they are and how they dynamically interact, you can start to feel, okay, my voice is not good. I'm angry. I'm in sales, right? So I can tell when, I'm talking to people and I'm not connecting, right? That's my throat chakra, right? I'm not my 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 genuine authenticity to the world is not coming through my voice, right? I can check myself. So that's balance. When all of that stuff, there's something called a third eye crown chakra awakening. When you can cycle through all of those, and then you get to that crown chakra and do that final chant, and you start to feel almost a tingling or a feeling of happiness, a feeling of freedom all around you. It's almost like an aura around you. It is an aura around you. When you can feel that, it's a pretty amazing thing. But they've all got to be in balance, perfect balance to get there. You don't always get there. That's another good point about meditations. They're all not going to be great, and they're all not going to make you. You're not going to come out and be ready to fight the most amazing day of your life. Some of them are hard to get through. So you just got to kind of live with that. Like the waves of life, the tide goes out and it comes in, right? So I just stay in there, and whether it's out or in, whether I'm happy about it or not, um, we just understand that, all things pass, right? It all kind of ties back to that Eastern yogic kind of karmic way of thinking, of not really taking anything too seriously, because it just is what it is, right? Today's going to happen. I'm going to be there. I'm going to fight through it, and I'm going to live to fight tomorrow, right? And instead of, if I make a mistake, I'm not going to worry about it. And if I've got something looming in my future, I'm just going to cover what I'm doing right now, and I'll deal with that when I get to it, right? That's freedom. That's mental freedom, spiritual freedom.
I agree. I agree. It is freedom when you can disconnect from what is happening around you because you become an active observer. So you're paying attention, but you're not emotionally attaching to any one thing that's happening around you.
Absolutely. That observer is a huge thing, right? That's almost the breakthrough, right? That's almost the awakening. When I pull myself out of the fray and understand that I can, it's almost like a movie that you're watching. You can see things, you can see the result of things before they happen, and you become very wise about certain things. That's freedom. That's what I call. I was just reading something. I was going through my book the other day in preparation for this, and if wisdom is the freedom from the bondage of ignorance, right? Coming out of that, the ignorance of our lives, and we're all there. We're all running this race that we don't really know what the end result are. Once we step back and see what the finality of that race is, maybe that's not something I want anyway, so I step out of the race. That's freedom. That's that thing you can find in your meditations that is a real joy to experience, and it's a valuable thing to experience for your life. um, I used to be I've always been a very energetic person, but I've been angry. I've been, too forward. I've done a lot of things and pissed off a lot of people and stuff like that. I find the more I get this, I'm more accepting about things, right? I can change myself. I quit trying to change the rest of the world. It's just me. I think a lot of the problems we see today is everybody wants to try to change the world or mold it into what they should be. If we would just take care of ourselves and mold us in the way we would like others to see us and actually be that small little change we can make in the world makes a huge difference. And it's a hard thing to grasp, but it's true.
It is a hard thing to grasp. It took me decades to figure it out. And even in my third book, I'm very similar to you, writing books of my learnings and sharing the best practices. It wasn't until I shifted to working from the inside out, because I think society teaches you to work from the outside in on purpose, because they don't want us to be awakened. They don't want us to have this inner wisdom and really this ability to be a ripple effect for so many. And I really am a big believer that inner work that you're speaking of can shift your frequency. And when you shift your frequency, you can shift your life.
Absolutely. And that's a cool thing you talk. Me and my better half Noel talk about this a lot. Is there are many different frequencies in this world. We have come to believe in that. There's timelines, and in whatever frequency we're tuned into, that's where we'll be. There's some really low frequencies in this world. It's easy to get sucked into them. That's another thing that our daily meditations can do, is help us get away from that, right? And come back to just us and who we are. That beautiful way to imagine and be free. Anything in my mind. A lot of stuff we get out of the wisdom of the Buddha as the helpers and the hindrances, right? There's anger, spite, envy, greed, and there's also joy, healthfulness. All of these things. And sometimes finding a way out of a mess in your life is as simple as, if I find myself to be an angry person, I often say, if we could watch a video of ourselves for a half a day, we would be horrified, with some of the stuff we say. And, it's just being able to say, if I find myself angry at this point, I got to think about something that's joyful in my life, or do that instead, right? And change those little parts of ourselves from a small little thing as to maybe something we wish we wouldn't eat, but we eat, or whatever, to a big thing. We may have a talk we have to do at work, or we may have to influence a bunch of people with our words. It's all important, from the micro to the macro. And it's almost like, until we find that authenticity when our hearts are really doing the right things, not just for us, but the world around us, whoever's directly around us. We have these little things called karma bubbles that I talk about in my book, which is just the space around me, right? The people I talk to or interact or touch or affect on a daily basis. That's the bubble, man. And that's, I got to make sure that whoever I'm interacting with, that as a result of their interaction with me, hopefully they have a better day today than a worse day. And it doesn't always work out, but that mindfulness is a beautiful thing, to at least ask those questions of ourselves before every important move we make in our life.
I love that. And I think that's what mindfulness and meditation has done for me, is to recognize that my energy draws to me the energy in which I'm sharing. And I'm super mindful now of the frequency I'm sharing all the time, whether I'm at the grocery store, at the gas station, or doing this. I try to stay at the same high vibration because I want to attract that type of tribe. I want to be that magnet that brings together thoughtful, conscious, awakened souls. And I feel like it's not something you can easily pop in and out of. And you have to be really conscious of who you let in your bubble, what frequency you pay attention to, what frequency you share, and what frequency you watch. And I'm really an active manager of my frequency.
Absolutely. You just said something. Who do I let in my bubble, right? That's in my book. That's one of the big points, and that's our choice, right? How we who we connect ourselves with, in our bubble, let us say, is going to say whether that's a, polluted, smoky, yucky bubble or a nice, beautiful, incense scented kind of thing. So it's on those metaphoric levels. It's so true, and I think when we bring the self to our, JJ, you're the center of the universe from your standpoint in your mind, and everybody else is like an actor in your work, and that's all of us, right? So it's what we can imagine. People can feel our thoughts, people can feel our feelings, and if we're not authentically kind of putting that out, if we don't get to that point in our lives where we think at least something a little beyond just our own, you know hard driving, me ego. We're designed like that, right? We're there's three parts of our brain. One is still that reptilian part that we've developed from, and that's the first thing we go to. That's the easiest thing to go to. There's two levels that go higher. It's achieving those and staying up there. That's where our meditations keep us. That's why it's so important to meditate every day, to keep us above those base levels, to keep us in that realm where, we're not always in that, find ourselves in these just, the same old, oh, here we go again, I'm stuck in this place again, right? There's reasons for that.
This is amazing. I've been off for, I would say, 2 weeks, and I feel like I needed this message so much to just like get back on your meditation game, JJ. So, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. We have your links below, but before we leave, like, where can people find you? Like, what are you working on that they can connect with you?
Right now, you can get my book all over the world on Amazon.com. Mara Dawn, that's Mara Dawn, Dawn, Buddha Rise, The Awakening by Joe Singleton. It's my first work, and what's really cool, JJ, is I'm finding in my second book, I'm finding now that my first book was kind of just a preamble to what an awakening really is, and I'm finding myself in a deeper state now, and that's what the next book's about. So it's great for if you want to kind of find some Eastern yogic thinking wisdom and ways to find where you truly can meditate daily. It's right there in that book, so hope you go get it.
That's great. I put the link below and just put it up in the comments so you can reach it. Joe, I am so glad that I've attracted you into my tribe. I'm super excited that we had this conversation, and hopefully you'll start listing your books and events over at Together We Seek Done Online, where many of the listeners come to find practitioners like you when they're looking to shift. So I just really appreciate you taking the time.
Namaste, JJ. Have a beautiful day.
Namaste.